little lion cub met a fierce warthog and a cunning meerkat, but no one could have imagined how this encounter would end. This is the movie Lion King, and it's definitely worth your attention. The sun rises over the savannah with animals and birds welcoming the start of the new day. All the creatures head towards Pride Rock. The reason is that the king of the savannah, a lion named Mustafa, has just had an heir, and everyone is eager to see him. The closest to approach is Rafiki, a shaman and a close friend of the king. We also see Mustafa's wife, a lioness named Sarabi, and their tiny son, Simba. Rafiki performs a dedication ritual by taking the lion cub in his hand and presenting him to the inhabitants of the savannah. All the animals cheer Mustafa's heir, bowing before their future king. A small mouse runs over the stones and rocks in search of food. It enters a large dark cave and finds a stalk of grain. At that moment, it is caught by a lion named Scar, a younger brother of the king Mustafa. A bird named Zazu flies into the cave. He is the local messenger and is very talkative. Because of his constant chatter, Scar loses his prey. Zazu informs Scar that Mustafa is on his way and is very displeased. Hungry Scar threatens to eat the talkative bird, but Mustafa arrives just in time to stop him. The king of the savannah, Mustafa, asks his brother why he didn't attend the ceremony of Simba's birth. Scar replies saying that he simply forgot about it, and turns his back on Mustafa. The tension almost culminates in a fight. However, Scar, realizing that Mustafa is physically stronger, walks away. Evening falls. Rafiki gazes thoughtfully into the fireflies and draws Simba's image on the wall. Then he joyfully raises his hands. Some time passes. Little Simba wakes up his dad. They are about to go on a morning patrol of their realm. Mustafa and his son climb up to Pride Rock and look over their kingdom. The cub is curious about what lies beyond the dark rocks, but the king forbids his son from going there. Mustafa and Simba walk through the savannah. Simba's father explains to his son that it is very important to respect all animals, as they are all connected by the great circle of life. Zazu flies to the lions and shares the local news. Simba wants to hunt Zazu and his father teaches him how to do it properly. Upon learning that the hyenas have appeared in their lands, Mustafa sends Simba home to play with other cubs. But Simba is more interested in a big beetle on the rocks. He wants to catch it and accidentally ends up in his Uncle Scar's cave. The cunning lion tells his nephew that beyond the dark cliffs lies a real elephant graveyard. This place is legendary. Simba suggests to his friend Nala that they should go there. Zazu flies alongside them, as he is required to keep an eye on the cubs. The talkative bird is convinced that they will surely get married when they grow up. The cubs laugh and don't believe that is possible. They try to escape from their annoying guard by hiding among other savannah residents, but Zazu finds them every time. However, these cubs are very stubborn, and they manage to escape through the dark cliffs. It seems that the ominous elephant graveyard is located there. There are many bones, and the place looks quite eerie. Hyenas appear on the cliffs. There are many of them, and they are very aggressive. They are led by Shenzi, the biggest and strongest of the group. Zazu flies in and distracts the hyenas so that the cubs can escape. Simba and Nala run for their lives, but the hyenas catch up with them and surround them. They have no chance of escape. Simba roars at the hyenas, but they only laugh at him. And suddenly... It was not Simba who roared though, but rather Mustafa. The father came to save his son. He drives away the hyenas, threatens Shenzi and takes the cubs home. Once alone with Simba, the king scolds him for breaking the ban. The cub explains that he wants to be as brave as his dad. Mustafa replies that he was very scared for his son because he loves him immensely. The king tells Simba about the great kings of the past who watch over them from the stars. At night, Scar arrives at the elephant graveyard and scolds the hyenas for failing to tackle two little lion cubs. They decide to join forces and come up with a plan to get rid of both Mustafa and Simba. Then, Scar will become the king of the savannah and will gift the hyenas the best land to live on. A new day arrives. Simba asks his uncle Scar to teach him how to roar loudly. Scar leads his nephew into a ravine and advises him to practice there. He then leaves and signals the hyenas hiding among the cliffs. Simba realizes that his roar doesn't intimidate even the smallest creatures of the savannah. Suddenly, a noise erupts from the cliffs. It's a herd of antelopes racing through the ravine. Simba immediately darts away to avoid being trampled. It turns out that the hyenas are attacking these antelopes. Scar rushes to Mustafa and tells him that Simba is about to get trampled by a herd of antelopes. The king immediately rushes to save his son. Simba struggles to hold onto a branch of a dry tree. Zazu flies to him, and just as the branch is about to break, Mustafa jumps into the ravine to save his son. He tosses Simba onto a ledge, but he himself falls and gets trampled by the antelopes. Wounded Mustafa tries to climb up a cliff, but the traitor Scar is already waiting for him there. Mustafa asks his brother for help, but Scar, with these words, "The king is dead. Long live the king," pushes Mustafa off the cliff under the hoofs of the antelopes. After the herd passes, Simba descends into the gorge and finds his father's body. The cub realizes that he died and cries bitterly. Scar approaches and tells Simba that he is responsible for his father's death. The treacherous lion orders the cub to leave the Pride Lands and never to return. Moreover, the treacherous Scar orders the hyenas to catch Simba and finish him off. But our little hero manages to escape from them. Scar announces to the entire Pride the death of Mustafa and Simba. He becomes the new king of the savannah and declares that the hyenas will be his allies. Hearing this, Rafiki and Zazu get very sad. Returning to Simba, our little lion wanders through the desert and collapses exhausted under the scorching sun. Soon, vultures surround him. They are chased away by two friends, Timon the meerkat and Pumbaa the warthog. After some thought, they take Simba with them, and along the way, they teach their new friend the principle of Hakuna Matata, which means a life without worries. Timon and Pumbaa bring the young lion to the fertile oasis and suggest that he eats insects. While this may not be very appetizing, he has no choice since he is forbidden from eating other animals. As time passes, Simba grows into an adult lion. He enjoys spending time with his friends and tries not to recall his past. The philosophy of Hakuna Matata helps him avoid thinking about bad things. Famine and destruction strike the Pride Lands. Nala wants to go seek help, but she is forbidden from doing so. The lead hyena demands that Sarabi comes to Scar. The treacherous lion wants to make Sarabi his queen, but she refuses. Angered by her rejection, Scar declares from now on, lions will eat after the hyenas, leaving them close to nothing, as the hyenas are insatiable. Night falls. Nala decides to leave the Pride. Zazu distracts Scar, and the young lioness manages to slip away unnoticed. Meanwhile, Simba is chasing butterflies, really scaring the local antelopes in the process. Timon and Pumbaa remind their friend that life has no real meaning, and that one should just enjoy it while they can. In the evening, our animals gaze at the stars. Timon is convinced that they are just fireflies stuck to the sky. Pumbaa believes they are burning balls of gas. Simba, on the other hand, disagrees and says the stars are the great kings of the past. Timon and Pumbaa laugh at his response, which deeply offends Simba, prompting him to walk away. Simba sheds a bit of his mane, and a tuft of his fur is carried away by the wind. During the day, a small bird finds the lion's fur and carries it to its nest. The tuft falls, and a giraffe eats it. After passing through the giraffe naturally, it ends up with a dung beetle. A strong gust of wind eventually carries the piece of mane directly to the Pride Lands, where it is found by Rafiki. The wise shaman immediately realizes that Simba is alive, rejoices, and decides to set out to find the young king. Timon and Pumbaa walk through the jungle, singing their favorite song with other animals. Unfortunately, the celebration doesn't last long, as Nala suddenly leaps out of the bushes, trying to catch Pumbaa. The poor warthog runs as fast as he can, but the lioness is faster. Suddenly, Simba leaps onto Nala. He saves his friend and fiercely fights the lioness. Nala manages to pin Simba down, and at that moment, they recognize each other. The fight immediately ends. Simba introduces her to his new friends. A romantic relationship quickly develops between him and Nala, causing Timon and Pumbaa to feel very jealous of their friend. Despite the young lioness's admiration of the beautiful place, she must return to her pride. Nala informs Simba about the troubles plaguing their land. The future king of the savannah is reluctant to go back home because he still blames himself for his father's death. Getting very disappointed, Nala leaves Simba. That evening, Simba meets Rafiki. The wise shaman expresses his desire to take Simba to see Mustafa, and together they head to the nearest lake. At first, the young lion sees only his reflection in the water, but soon Mustafa's image appears. The truth is that his father lives within Simba. Mustafa's spirit reminds his son of his destiny, after which the young lion accepts his fate and agrees to become the king of the pride. Simba leaves his friends and rushes home. He catches up with Nala, and they continue their journey together. Soon, Timon and Pumbaa join them, and also the talkative Zazu shows up nearby. The problem is that the entrance to the Pride Lands is guarded by hyenas. Timon and Pumbaa use themselves as bait to distract the vicious predators. Seizing the moment, the lions climb the Pride Rock. Scar once again asks Arabi to be his queen, but of course she refuses him again. Then, in a fit of rage, the treacherous lion lunges at her. At that moment, Simba appears and roars at his uncle. He will not allow him to hurt his mother. Simba says that the throne rightfully belongs to him. Then Scar reminds him that it was Simba who was responsible for Mustafa's death. However, none of the lions believe this. Scar forces Simba towards the edge of the Pride Rock. Our hero slips but manages to grab onto the edge. Scar mockingly looks at his nephew and says this is exactly how his father looked in his final moments. Then Simba remembers witnessing this as a child. Yes, it was Scar who took his father's life. The treacherous lion tries to push Simba off the cliff, but our hero bites his uncle and climbs back up. Simba demands that Scar confesses to his crime, but instead, the evil lion sics his hyenas on his nephew. Nala commands the pride to defend their rightful king. A fierce battle ensues between the lions and the hyenas. Even Rafiki, Timon, Pumbaa and Zazu join in. Pumbaa fights especially fiercely. One should never underestimate little warthogs. Nala engages in a fight with Shenzi. She is no longer the cub she once was. The hyenas suffer a crushing defeat. Simba finds Scar and tells him that he does not deserve to live after everything he has done. The traitor lies that it was all the hyenas' doing. Simba does not believe him, but still decides to show mercy and demands his uncle to leave the pride forever. Scar pretends to agree, but when Simba turns his back, he suddenly throws burning embers into his eyes. The lions engage in a fierce fight, during which Simba throws the treacherous uncle off the cliff. The injured Scar is surrounded by the hyenas. They overheard their conversation on the rock, so they call him a traitor and pounce on him. You remember that the hyenas are insatiable, right? All the animals recognize Simba as their new king. The young lion climbs onto the top of Pride Rock and roars loudly. Some time passes. Life in the Pride is getting back to normal. The animals live in harmony with each other once again. Simba and Nala have their first cub. All the inhabitants of the savannah come to see him. The circle of life is restored.